Okay, today we're working on the 2010 Ultra Limited. The other day, my wife and I were going to go out for a practice ride so she could get some time. She hasn't been on this thing yet this summer. I took it to town and the voltmeter spiked to 16 volts. Check engine light turned on, battery light turned on. And I thought, well, it's a voltage regulator. So I changed the voltage regulator, and then the volts came back into line. I'd already tested the pins down here, where they're at down there, to make sure that there was continuity and it wasn't shorted to ground and all the rest of it. And it tested fine. The only thing I didn't test was the AC output, because that's kind of a two-person job and I didn't have two people. So we did our riding thing, and we were coming back home. I was driving the bike, and the volts wouldn't come up to more than about 13. I thought, well, that's strange. Got home, checked it again. Now it was shorted to ground. So I thought, well, that's stator's junk. Well, obviously it is. I got into this thing, and I've never had anything to do with that part of it yet, but I discovered somebody else has been in it, and they put that Screaming Eagle compensator on there. So it's been into before, but it must have been done at a dealer, because this I just had to do because you can't get that rotor past. There's a little casting mark right down here. You can't get the rotor off of that unless you grind that off. So I dug around in my Taiwanese drill bits and I found that sanding drum, 60 grit, worked perfect. So then, in trying to get this all apart, that's got this bolt right here. It has red Loctite on it, or supposed to have. So anyway, you got to make sure you heat that. I just use a propane torch. Just heat that to break that Loctite, and then get on there. But you've got to have this tool. For some reason, I don't know what the story is exactly, Harley doesn't want you using the old stair-step nylon one like I used on my old 2001. So you gotta wedge this in here and one thing in the next anyway. So that, I think I paid about 10 bucks or whatever for that thing. A guy could probably make it. Now that I'm looking at it, a guy could make that real easy. So anyway, you gotta have that. But, so now, as you can see, yeah, those two coils have had it. That's probably why it wasn't charging to 14 volts, but it was charging more than 12 eventually. I'm quite sure that the rest of these would probably all burn out. Anyway, so here's what we went and did. I bought this cyclo-electric stator from Lowbrow Customs. I've bought some stuff from them before, and pretty good outfit. So we'll get these 4 screws out of here and pull that stator, and we'll be back in business. Okay, so we got the stator is mounted, and let's see, yeah, right there. It's always a good idea, in my experience, to put a little bit of where the hell is it here? Well, that stuff, they call it great stuff or the right stuff or something. It's some kind of an oil sealer. But you smear that around on the grommet on the inside there and then slide it through, and that way you shouldn't have any leak where that thing comes through. The other thing is, you got to have some little picks or something. Just put them in there carefully and hold on to that rotor, because what will happen is that thing, it wants to slam down on the magnets, and you can break the magnets that are inside the rotor right in here. You can break them off, and then you're really screwed, especially if you don't know it and you start the engine, and one of them magnets gets caught up in there and it tears the hell out of everything. So anyway, we'll get this thing stuck back together here, and I think I'm going to have to go to town. I just checked my primary oil inventory, and I don't have enough. So But that's the least of our worries here on this deal. But we'll get her buttoned back up, and that should be the end of that. Okay, the next thing that you need to be aware of if you're going to ever do something as crazy as this, these big there's spring washers, there's a name for them, it escapes me now, but they can slide down and get hung up back in there, and then what will happen is you won't have this thing seated like it's supposed to be in there. But anyway, we got past all that foolishness, and so now just time to put a little red Loctite on this dude here. Well, this dude over here. A little red Loctite on that. Okay, so there's some red Loctite. Okay, and then just thread her on in. Okay, so same deal, just got to put that primary locking tool or primary gear locking tool or whatever it is in there. And then this guy here has to be seated tight against the compensator because behind this is splined, and of course it fits into some splines there. So you got your 13/16 on there, and then your initial torque. Oh, that's really easy to see. Well, anyway, initial torque is 100 foot-pounds, and then you back it off and torque it to 140. Okay, so now the chain tensioner is in. I just got to get it bolted in, but you got to put a drop of blue Loctite on each one of those bolts. If you've got this type, this is actually, it acts like a hydraulic lifter. There's a plunger down underneath of here that's spring loaded, and it uses oil pressure as this chain is flopping around to kind of pump that up, and once it gets pumped up it stays pretty well tight. Not as tight as a spring loaded one, but a loose chain is a happy chain unless it's really loose and banging around. But so anyway, that's pretty much it. I mean, the rest of it, if you can't figure that out, then I guess take it to a dealer. But you just put the cover back on, put I think this one takes a quart of primary oil in it, and put the master fuse back in. They say to unhook the battery, but that I think there does the same thing. And of course, hook up your regulator and all that business, and fire it up and tear around. So that's it.